So you did all the networking, you called the brokers, and trained up on taking down multifamily deals. So after doing all that work, a broker sends you a deal that seems to add up. In fact, it's an awesome deal, but you don't have any of the money raised. So what do you do next? This is the part when most people starting off as real estate entrepreneurs freeze up. They become great at looking for deals, but they come up a little short when it comes to raising the capital from potential investors. They are afraid to pull the trigger because they don't have any commitments. So they quit chasing the deal because they're just afraid of locking it up. And there's two things that they really need to keep in mind. Number one, having a strong negotiated deal is really undervalued. And what I mean by that is, finding a good deal in today's market is really like finding a needle in a haystack. I personally look at over 100 deals before I find one that actually makes sense. So if you're able to get a verbal commitment from that broker after you do a very thorough and conservative underwriting, you have something of value. Even if you're unable to close that deal by yourself, there are many other syndicators like me that would like to help you take that deal down. But, like I said, you need to make sure that your underwriting is absolutely solid, and you really, really need to know what you're doing when you're putting together the underwriting portion of a deal. Number two, not watching out for opportunities. Something that comes up on my podcast, time and time again, is being in that right mindset. Our brains, they're designed to present us with opportunities even when we're not looking for them. The big mistake is not seizing those opportunities when they present themselves. If you take advantage of say a chance meeting with a big time investor, that could very well be your partner on the next deal. Right? This is not the time to be timid or shy or I don't want to go talk to them or none of that stuff, right? You need to be ready to explain your business model and what makes you stand out from all those other people that do what you do. So as a rule, if an opportunity presents itself, you go ahead and grab it immediately and don't let go until you know that that opportunity is exhausted. All right, so let's say you're able to get over these two things, right? And now you need to perform what's called a worst case scenario. So this is where everything goes bad in the deal, right? So maybe occupancy dropped because the seller put his family in each one of the units to drive up occupancy, and they all bolted right after they closed. Or the boiler dies the first month after you buy the deal, okay? You want to go through any and all scenarios. Ultimately, what you're trying to do is you're trying to find a way to kill that deal. Okay, so here's an example. Let's say you find a 20-unit building, all right? You run the numbers and seems to look good, looks very good, and you make an offer. Seller counters, and you come up a little bit, they accept it, but no matter what, it's still a smoking deal, still a very good deal. So now you need about $300,000 for the down payment to close, but you only have a soft commitment of $75,000 from your family. No worries. You put together an LOI and you send it in with all the terms of the deal. All right. So it'll take about a week for them to review it. So this gives you time to start calling investors for that deal. And at the same time, you can also consider selling the deal to someone else that may want to buy it from you, meaning you can wholesale the deal. Now, I would keep that as a backup plan in case your investors don't come through. Okay, you don't want to become a wholesaler unless maybe that's what your business model calls for. But if you're looking to actually buy the deal. That's what you committed to. Anyway, you start calling everyone that can line you up with potential investors. You're going to call on property managers, brokers, attorneys, maybe even CPAs. Really anyone that could put you in touch with others that buy multifamily real estate or even real estate in general, right? You may even want to call your local RIA, your Real Estate Investor Association, to see if they have a group that specializes and does multifamily. Right? Some RIAs do and some RIAs don't. So you may want to, again, call them up to see if you could find some that do. In the meantime, now you have that signed LOI back. All right, so now you have 7 days to submit a purchase agreement. You know, typically it takes another 5 days for them to review it, but you can use this time to, again, continue making the calls and get in front of investors that may have interest in this deal, right? Now you have 30 days to work on due diligence, all right? Because now that's under PSA, you have 30 days because it's typical of what's going to be in your PSA, your purchase agreement. If you put a clause in your agreement that says the clock doesn't start ticking until they submit all the information, which you probably should do as a matter of course, it may give you a little more time. But let's say it buys you another 2 weeks to keep your calls going for finding investors. Now, if you think about it, since the time you submitted the LOI, you have almost an entire month to raise the capital needed or even sell that contract out. All right. The most difficult part of this whole exercise is the amount of the no's that you're going to get. But if you have a really good deal and you're talking to actual real estate people, that part is key. If you're talking to real estate people, someone will put that money up. Okay. The very, very worst case scenario that you can do is exercise the termination clause in the due diligence period, right? This allows you to terminate the agreement for any reason before due diligence expires. Now, I don't like recommending this, all right? This is very, very bad. I mean, if you do this even one time, potentially, it could hurt your reputation and nobody will sell you anything, right? The broker community is very small and they all talk to each other. And if you waste their time by doing that tactic, they won't give you any more deals. So when I put down on an LOI, I intend on closing that deal. That's just what I do. And I recommend you adopt that mindset. So you can pull out. I don't recommend it, but it's possible. So what's the lesson though? All right. If you get a really good deal and even after you perform your worst case analysis, there's a good chance that you're going to raise that money you need to close. And if you don't, you could find a buyer for that contract. Or maybe they'll even want to partner with you on it, depending on where that buyer is. Especially if they're out of state. They want somebody right close by that can keep an eye on it. If none of that pans out, you can execute that due diligence termination clause that I mentioned. And again, I don't like recommending it. It's not a good way to be because it can get you into a lot of trouble down the road. So use that sparingly or 0 times if possible. But you need to keep your eyes and options open. There are deals out there. You just need to find them, make sure they work, make sure they cash flow beautifully, and then you attack them. That's how it gets done. Anyway, have you ever found a deal and executed something like this? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. And also, if you liked this, go ahead and give us a thumbs up. Also check out the Bulletproof Cash Flow podcast on iTunes or Stitcher. And please subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. It really helps the channel when we have more subs. We're working on getting new content to you guys out every day and help you build success in the world of multifamily. So be great, guys, and I'll talk to you again soon.